Donald Trump visited China and now he's back to the United States. This was a historic visit to China. Prior to that, last time that the President of the United States visited China was by Donald Trump himself when he was the president back in 2017. Now here's a question. What exactly both leaders agreed to? How important this meeting was? Now, two of the most important things to pay attention to. First of all, China has warned the United States that if they're not going to solve the Taiwan problem peacefully, it can easily turn into a disaster. Secondly, the most important demand that the United States had is that China must open itself for business. Now, some people might say that China is deeply integrated into the US economy. Look at how much China sells in the United States. Look at how much US treasuries China has purchased. Look at how much money China has made. That's true, but here's the question. How much money did the United States made of China? That's another most important question. 20 years ago, that was not a very good question because the average Chinese was insanely poor. Today, China is the second world's largest economy, and China probably has far more rich people than any other nation besides the United States. So China needs to open the entire market for the US companies. Now, China has done a very long progress. They've actually done a lot of great things to open their country for the United States. But again, that's not enough. Here's the most important thing. Strategic industries need a joint venture to enter China's market. So if it's an important technology and a US company wants to get into the market, they need to go into a joint venture with a Chinese company. And that means that the owner of the business isn't just a US company that just moved to China, but rather in a combination with a Chinese owner. And that means that transferring technology to a Chinese owner is going to be super easy. And the next day you know that there is a Chinese competitor with the exact same technology copying American technology. And of course, US companies are not happy with that. Integrate China deeper into the US financial system. Over the last 30 years, even though that China was integrated deeply into the global financial system, China was building an alternative financial system on the side. Does not make happy the United States because we want China to depend on the United States. You gotta open your doors, let BlackRock, Blackstreet, Vanguard, JP Morgan to get into the financial system of China so that China will depend entirely on the United States. Because look at this. The US companies or the financial companies have a track record of over 100 years. They have built networks for over a century. So definitely they have much more experience, they have much more money. But if China is not going to allow them to get into the country, they have no chance. So in an open market, obviously US banking sector is going to dominate the Chinese banking sector. But China is not willing to do that. Yes, China has actually made it much easier for the US financial companies to get into China, but China has one problem, that China has very strict capital controls. It's not easy to get money out of China. So even though that you're BlackRock and you will get into the Chinese financial market, when getting money out of China is so insanely difficult, it makes no sense to make business there. Chinese data must be in China. So if you are a financial company and you open yourself in China, what happens? If you're dealing with Chinese people, their data must be in China. And that means that you have to build a completely independent infrastructure in China that is also controlled by the CCP party. And that's something that is not that the United States really actually likes. Why don't we basically integrate China into the entire US financial system? State-backed banks are subsidized. So imagine if you are, for example, JP Morgan or State Street and you get into the Chinese financial markets. On one side, it is you. On the other side, you have this Chinese bank that is fully subsidized by the government. Can you possibly compete with a bank that has infinite amount of money? Well, of course not. And that's unfair competition. China's largest company is subsidized, so competition is really tough. If you take Tesla and BYD is entirely subsidized by the Chinese government, so they don't have to make a profit. All they do is just keep scaling and scaling until they bring down the cost of production. On the one side, you can't actually blame them because China has just opened itself to capitalism 40 years ago, while the United States had capitalism for over 200 years. Yes, Tesla has also been partially subsidized by the US government, but that's absolutely nothing if you compare it to BYD. And in that circumstances, American companies are not in a state to compete with Chinese companies when Chinese companies have unlimited amount of money from the Chinese government. So if we want a fair competition between our two nations, then we have to be fair. So stop subsidizing your companies and we will stop subsidizing our companies. Now, the second thing that they have actually talked about is that Xi warned Trump of possible conflict over Taiwan. So for the United States, it's very important that Taiwan remains independent because Taiwan is one of the closest allies of the United States. Why? Because Taiwan is anti-China, and if you're anti-China, you're pro the United States because the US is the only country that can actually protect you. And Taiwan is geographically located in such a way that it actually contains China. Look at the closest countries around China. You have South Korea, Japan, Philippines, and all of these countries are really afraid of China because you have this giant country on one side with 1.5 billion people with the capacity to instantly take over the entire region and literally control the region. So if Taiwan is going to fall under the hands of China, suddenly Japan has no other option but to militarize. Philippines will have to boost their military spending in order to militarize as well. The same thing with South Korea. So it's vitally important for the United States to keep Taiwan pro the United States, and it should not join China in order to prevent militarization of all of these nations around it. So Taiwan is like a huge US military base in the middle, balancing the powers. Another important thing is that are semiconductors. Now, a lot of people don't realize how difficult it is to manufacture semiconductors. And all Taiwan has, all what they spent their last 40 years is building an entire infrastructure to master the production of semiconductors. And they're so important that every single year we're producing so much electronics. Just take a look at your iPhone, your MacBook, your iPad, the camera that's filming you right now, maybe this microphone and your car. Every single piece of technology has a semiconductors, and without the Taiwanese semiconductors, it's impossible to build the most advanced semiconductors in the world, which means that you can actually power AI. Yes, when it comes to cars, you need very weak semiconductors. But when you're actually building chips that are going to train the AI, then you need the most advanced semiconductors. And you can't just easily take that entire industry and move it to the United States because you need talent, you need factories, you need all that supply chain. It's not just one company. It is literally a combination of multiple, maybe hundreds of companies working all together to build that supply chain to make that possible. And Taiwan perfectly understands that, and the United States as well. So nobody wants to attack Taiwan, and the United States wants to keep Taiwan under the rule of the United States so that all those semiconductors instantly come to the United States and power the AI industry in the United States and not in Taiwan. China is not dumb enough to actually start that war against China or against Taiwan, but rather they're very patient. So they're basically telling the United States, do not interfere in our affairs. At the same time, Taiwan was independent all this time and they want to continue to be independent. So they're getting closer to the United States. So this makes all of this very, very complicated. So the only thing that the two leaders mostly agreed, or not the only thing, but one of the major things is that China will start buying oil from the United States, and that will help both countries to close the trade deficit that the United States has against China. But other than that, there hasn't been many agreements between them. So while this meeting wasn't actually that important, it actually sent a very important message to investors that both nations are talking, both nations agree that there should not be any kind of war, and both nations are going to solve their differences mostly through dialogue. That's a good message to the market. And that's why if you look at the S&P 500 right now, you see that it is catastrophically rising, and most likely it will continue rising as long as people will realize that there is going to be peace between China and the US instead of war. Why? Because look at businesses, look at the stock market. Stock market consists of companies, and the more these companies sell around the world, the more money they will make, the higher are going to be their valuations. So here's the question to you. Did you actually use the last crash back in March in order to capitalize on that opportunity? Or did you miss that opportunity? But if you have been part of the Investing Academy, you would know exactly which stocks to buy, because I've actually given a list of stocks to investors in the Investing Academy. Every single person who purchased those stocks actually made a lot of money since then. So if you want to join the Investing Academy, the link is in the description of this video.